start to. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Tonight is the September 27th, 2022. It's 5:40 p.m. and this is a meeting of the governance subcommittee of the Cohasset Harbor Committee. I'm going to do a roll call because I think we haven't been very good on complying with all the particular rules in the past, so we're going to try to do better on that. So David Farag.
David Farag here.
Debbie Shad. Deb, you're on mute.
You're right. I'm here.
Let's see, myself, Lisa Hewitt here. We also have in attendance Tim Davis, who's the chair of the Harbor Committee.
Hello, I'm here.
Paula Curran, who is an ex officio member of the Harbor Committee. And Cassandra Thayer, who is the town planning department staff person who is wonderfully staffing this out for us. So the first, I'm going to skip to the third agenda item, which is a review of the proposed navigation bylaw. And as I mentioned, this is more of an update rather than a deliberation. And just a notice to people about, what is my understanding of what's, posture we're in on the bylaw. As some of you know, a navigation bylaw was presented to the Harbor Committee, I believe on August 25th. I don't have my notes in front of me, for them to consider. There was some good conversation at that time. The vote of the Harbor Committee was to send it forward to the selectmen for their consideration. Some members had some questions, and one of the comments that I had made that evening is that, in the future, we hope that something like this would be sent to the governance subcommittee, prior to being sent to the full committee, but that I was going to vote in favor of sending it to the selectmen because, I didn't want to hold up the process. And so that's where it sits today. In my conversations that I've had, and Tim, you can chime in at some point, conversations that I've had about the navigation bylaw, the selectmen intend to post a meeting so that lots of the questions that have been coming forward by people can be addressed. I spoke to the selectman, the chair this afternoon, Jack Creighton, and he tells me that they haven't posted the date of the actual hearing that they're going to hold, but that they're also in conversations, with other stakeholders, throughout the community and between the communities, to try to resolve and to highlight and to illuminate some of the questions that everyone has. I know, and I'd love to have, and then there, in addition to that, there is a vehicle called a citizens petition, which has been filed. I don't know if it's technically been filed yet, but there are questions, there's signatures being amassed in support of the citizens petition to pass the bylaw. And as some of you know, the citizens petition is a vehicle by which citizens of this town can get 10 or more signatures and have something put on the warrant for consideration for the town meeting. So we kind of have like a dual track going on. I would imagine that the hearing before the selectmen is going to be, helpful, to educate people prior to the town meeting. And I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that, or Tim, do you want to add anything to that?
I'm happy to comment on it. I'll go on live here. Yes. Thanks, Lisa. A couple of things. First of all, the citizen petition was sent out, I believe Thursday was the first day we sent it out for signatures. And we have now, as of this moment, received 356 signatures in support of that. What for special town meeting, we needed 100 signatures. For town meeting, we need 10. So we clearly have exceeded the 100 that was required to get to special town meeting. So it's clear that the community, Cohasset community, has given tremendous support for keeping Cohasset Harbor open and preserved and available for all citizens of the South Shore to use for fishing, fowling, navigating, and just the quiet enjoyment of that area. So there's tremendous support. I can also add that there was a meeting last evening between the Cohasset chair of select board chair and vice chair, town manager, and town council with the Situate select board chair, vice chair, a town administrator, and their council. It was an informational meeting. There was no deliberation. There was no agreements, no negotiations. It was simply informational. So that has happened. I checked with the town clerk and the town manager's office today, and the citizen petition has fulfilled all obligations and will be on the warrant. So that moves forward. So that's all set. There are various questions that people have asked, and what I am trying to do is to prepare essentially a brief that addresses and a brief from counsel, legal counsel, that addresses some of the legal issues that are involved. Most of you may know that this came from the Act of 1953 of the Commonwealth, which essentially gave Cohasset jurisdiction over Cohasset Harbor. Following that, shortly thereafter, Cohasset passed a bylaw using that act to define some of the issues within Cohasset Harbor. It was basically addressed at the channel. So what this one will do is augment that. And all of this will be explained to the citizens of Cohasset in a brief, which we're going to prepare. So that there are a number of legal issues that are involved.
When you say we, are you talking about the town? Are you talking about individually? I just want to understand who's
I'm talking about me and a number of people who have volunteered to help with this. So no, this is a citizen petition is basically
I'm aware. Which
Okay.
I'm just wondering when you say we. I'm just wondering what hat we had on. That's all.
No, I know. I apologize. No, okay. I'm putting on my post-employment benefits chair hat. So no, no, this is not the Harbor Committee. This is not Friends of Bassing's Beach. This is not anything else. It is simply a citizen's petition, which I'm kind of helping to bring together.
Yeah.
I can also say that I've talked to a number of people from Situate who are very much in favor of preserving and conserving Cohasset Harbor for the benefit of all. And so that's really what we're trying to do.
David has his hand up, David.
Excuse me?
David has his hand up. He looked like he was wanted to ask a question.
Yes, I just had a couple of quick questions. With the petition, it was originally coming through the town. Are the selectmen going to put this on the warrant as well, or did it go past the time period when they could, or is this just going to have to go as a citizen's petition?
I think that's to be determined.
Yeah, it is to be determined. I checked with town hall today. There are two bylaws that the Harbor Committee is particularly interested in. This is one of them, and the other one is the shellfish bylaw. So the citizen petition is going to be on the warrant. The navigation bylaw the select board still has to decide by vote in their wisdom whether they want to do this. So either way, it will be on the warrant. There are a lot of politics that are involved with this. They met with Situate. My sense is that the select board would prefer not to get into a legal battle with Situate, but I'm not sure how this is going to play out, David, but one way or the other, it'll be in the warrant for town meeting.
And the original draft was that produced from KP Law, or where did the original draft come from?
The original draft was done by KP Law.
Okay, yeah, that's
And there have been several iterations of it. What I have tried to do is each time we do an iteration, I try to put it out there for people to comment on, and it kind of evolves. So I know that some people look at previous iterations of it and question why it's moving the way it is. But the fact of the matter is, trying to be as transparent as possible. We put them all out there. People can see what's going on and see how it evolves. It's sort of like the Constitution of the United States. It evolves, seems to evolve over time, but that's where it is.
But for those at home or anybody watching, KP Law is the town council. So the original draft was produced by them and then sent around to the boards to look at and tweak and go through the process. Yeah.
And since the original one, David, it has been tweaked a couple of times. And so the one that all the citizens who signed the citizen petition, that is the version that will be on the warrant.
Okay. And last thing is, so is there still time for the selectmen to put in this for a special town meeting?
I believe so. My
yeah.
understanding is that the selectmen, in and of their inherent power as lawmakers,
They can do it up to the.
They can do it up
Yeah,
into,
yeah.
so they have the flexibility to, and I talked a little bit about it that the other day was someone who was a little bit more than that.
They have discretion to change things right up until actually till the day of. I mean, as you know, if you go to town meeting, we have a warrant that's sent to all of us ahead of time, but then there's usually an updated one as you walk in the door of the gym. So
Right.
that could be changed.
Right. Debbie, did you want to make any comments?
I mean, that just covered some of the questions I had. Obviously, I'm hoping that hearing that the selectmen hold will answer some of the questions I had about, some legal issues about the act and how it might intersect with the enabling legislation for the aquaculture permits that Situate is considering, which is also state enabling legislation, I believe. I'm just a little concerned that, the two towns are working potentially together on this, and that it's not just going to create problems for Cohasset if this passes as a town.
Well, it will create a problem for some without any question, Debbie. There's no question that Situate wants to put a 38-acre commercial oyster farm in Cohasset Harbor. So this would give Cohasset the ability to prevent that. And there's no question that certainly with 356 Cohasset residents petitioning to stop that where Cohasset stands on that. And I think the select board will listen to that. So there are differences of opinion. There are different desires. The people that want to put the aquaculture or the oyster farm in there are quite vocal and quite adamant that that's what they want to do. And apparently the Situate Select Board supports that. So it is an issue. I mean, it's unfortunate that's the case, because I would like very much for Situate and Cohasset to cooperate on that and all the other things that we need to cooperate on as neighbors. But
so, I mean, we don't have to get into the weeds on this, but does Cohasset have an opinion of town council on?
That is one of the things I'm hoping that will come through in this hearing. I'm hoping town council and the chair has suggested to me that they will also be, coming to any hearing we have to give some analysis, because I'm with you, Debbie. There are certain questions as a matter of law, not an opinion of what I'd like to see and not like to see, but as a matter of law, what is controlling?
Yes, and I'm sure that will happen when the Cohasset Select Board sets a time for the meeting, the open meeting. All will be invited, and it certainly, I have suggested to the chair of the select board that we have town council there to answer any questions and discuss any legal issues. I think that's very important to do that, so people do understand where the legal issues are.
But have the selectmen requested an opinion of town council on?
Well, the chair of the select board requested of KP Law, of town council, that she draft this. So that's where it came from. So I'm not sure that qualifies. When she drafted a bylaw, I'm not sure whether that qualifies as an opinion, but.
Okay, all right, so, okay, so you're saying this, presumably if it came from town council, they believe this is a valid bylaw?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the confusing things I noticed, and I don't know if it's still up on the website, but there was earlier drafts of maybe some of the preliminary drafts of the bylaw, and it appeared that comments were being made by our council to a draft. So that's what it was confusing, because there's comments and it says KP Law or KBGL Law or whatever on it. So that was on the website. So that's what it felt like. Somebody else had done the original draft, and town council was commenting on it. So I don't know what drafts are up there now, but I think that was what the draft was up the last time I took a look. So I'm gonna have to go in and see.
I'm afraid I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what exactly.
Yeah, but I think it led to some confusion about the genesis of the draft.
Maybe the best thing to do is just not to put anything on the website until it's in its final form, and then let her
Well,
rip.
then people can't comment. That's
I
a problem.
don't know. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah. Lori, do you want to comment? I know, you spoke at the Harvard Committee meeting about, thoughts on it.
I think this would be a good bylaw to help preserve the recreational use of that area and make it safe. I mean, my big thing is safety, always has been.
Mhm.
So from a safety point of view, I think it's great.
Thank you.
Lori.
Thank you. Well, I think what I'd like to suggest is, I know this is up at the beginning. I know that there's two tracks of this bylaw going forward. It's undoubtedly, it is going to be on the town warrant to be considered. But I would ask that all of you look at the bylaw, think of some questions, bring forward the questions at the open hearing, because I think the more discussion that goes on this issue, the better, to encourage people to understand it, because I have received phone calls from people asking me about it and worried about it, and positive, negative, left, right, in the center. And so I think the more that we can get some concrete information out about the issue will help, the deliberative process, which is always hard. What did Senator Bulger used to say? Damn democracy. It's such a bother.
While we have him here, before we go on, I just had one question. Is this with the bylaw, the way it's constructed, Tim, how do you see it protecting the town of Cohasset today as before, where we didn't have it? So in other words, what added protections would it give, or does it enunciate more clearly as to what should be going on in the waterways, or how do you see it as protecting the town?
Well, if you well, first of all, what it does is provide the authority to the harbor master, the Cohasset Police Department, and the Cohasset Select Board to govern that area. And the bylaw specifically states that there won't be any impediments to navigation. So there's more in the bylaw, but essentially impediments to navigation is really the thing. And the also the it says that commercial use of Bassing's Beach is not allowed. Commercial, you can't pull your commercial boat up on Bassing's Beach. Now, that's self-evident because all of Bassing's Beach is privately owned. So you shouldn't be able to do that. I just remind you all that what Situate was trying to do initially was to put a lot of the farm on private property without permission from the property owners. So that was, they finally backed off on that. It took litigation to do it, but they finally backed off and said that they wouldn't put it on private property unless they figured out how to get around that. So far, they haven't figured that out. So I think the private property owners are already protected from that. So what they've said is they're going to move just off of private property. In other words, low water. And that's what we're trying to protect, is to keep that open for navigation so that, for instance, if you're a young child learning to sail in an opti and you're sailing out in that area and you capsize and you're blown into that area, you're not going to get blown into a commercial oyster farm with cages and all kinds of stuff where you could get seriously injured. So these are the kind of things we're trying to protect.
Tim, there's a couple things that are referred to in the bylaw that I wondered if there's a place to find them. I mean, I was interested in reading chapter 54 of the Acts of 1953, and I was interested in looking at the map that is referred to in paragraph 3, a survey chart, dated 1948. Is that available somewhere?
It is. It is available.
Send you out the chapter 53, and I can send you out the other document.
There are a number of charts that go back, many years even before then. But Cohasset Harbor is an ill-defined area, without any question. There are some charts that show Cohasset Harbor going out to Minot Light. And there's some that show it going all the way to Gloucester, for heaven's sake. So, but clearly Cohasset Harbor is defined as going out beyond the Glades and Whitehead, which is the area of concern here. So one of the things that we may do as this goes through the process is we may more specifically define Cohasset Harbor for these purposes. And I think if we define it from the Glades to Whitehead, that's one way to do it. It could be, as you know, Cohasset channels into the harbors. There are 3 channels coming into Cohasset Harbor. They're all labeled as channels to Cohasset Harbor. One is the northern channel that comes in past Brush Island. The gangway, which is the only one that's lighted and has a gong, goes kind of between Brush Island and Minot Light. And then there's the eastern channel that comes in by the Glades. All of those are defined as Cohasset Harbor channels. So Cohasset Harbor is, there are many ways to define it, but for the purpose of this bylaw, what we're mostly interested in is the area between the private property and really Whitehead and the Glades.
Well, Debbie, as a good lawyer that you are, you hit on the very most important part of what the definition of Cohasset Harbor is and how that's going to be
It
developed.
seems very specific in the regulation. It seems like one chart is the key, but maybe it's not so simple. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, that chart is not particularly specific either. So if you look at the chart, it kind of is open between Cohasset Harbor and the Atlantic Ocean. So where's the line? I'm not sure that has ever been defined for legal purposes.
Yeah. And maybe Cassandra, at some point, we could even put those documents online and on the Harbor page. If I can get them to you, or Tim can get them to you, and so we can have them, so they're easily accessible for everybody.
But you
Yes.
can send them to this committee,
Yep.
Lisa?
Yep.
Okay.
I will, and I'll also send you the committee, which was interesting. I mean, I don't think some of us were aware that post authorization of the, what is it, chapter 53 of the Acts of 54, or the Acts of 54 of chapter 53. I keep mixing those up. But the town did take action. They did make a bylaw. So, and that's something that I think in some of the earlier discussions, people didn't realize had occurred. But of course, it made no sense that they didn't do something.
Right.
Because if you go to all the bother getting a special act through the legislature, which is not easy, they did something. So that's, it's interesting that is not in our bylaws now. So I'm wondering if, was it ever, some further legal research should be undertaken, and was it ever, revoked, or further amended? So that's
I don't, Lisa, I think Jack Buckley did a lot of research, found the bylaw that was actually passed shortly after the Commonwealth. So it is a bylaw of the town, from what I can gather, from what I've seen. But that doesn't prohibit another bylaw.
Oh, no, this is just a further amendment, quite frankly.
But
since we missed the first one, and I'd kind of give a little tickle to town council for missing the first one. I wonder if there's anything else in the last, 37 years that may also be out there that we should become aware of.
I wasn't here in 1953 when this all went down. So
there you go.
Is there a way we could get a copy of that as well?
Yeah, I'll put a little package together for all of you, and I'll send it out to all of you with the minutes that I'll have you all review, and we can adopt it at our next meeting.
would you just include me on whatever that?
Sure, I'm more than happy to, Tim.
Thank you.
And my friend Paula Curran too.
Yes.
We'll add to it.
Well,
I
how
would-
was the golf game today?
I would say that when the map will tell, even if it's not as best defined, but I think for people to know is that, when you have harbors, even if you do have a break wall, you do have an inner harbor and an outer harbor, and it's not uncommon to have it either designated as such or to talk about it in those terms. But in both cases, it's still the harbor that, for the navigable waters for recreational or commercial coming in and out of Cohasset. So I think that a lot of people, if they look at, they might think the break wall, well, that has to be the end of the harbor, but that doesn't necessarily have to be so. But then again, it depends what the map says, and if the map is not pinpoint defined, then it's certainly going to be needs to be defined at some point.
Sure.
Right.
And the other thing, David, is that generally what you refer to as the inner harbor is generally referred to as the cove. Now, what those of us that use the harbor a lot kind of refer to the cove as down by where the Cohasset Harbor Inn is, down in there by Atlantica. That is the cove. But most of what I've read defines Cohasset Cove as inside the breakwater, as Cohasset Cove, and then the harbor is out toward the Glades and Whitehead.
To be determined. Well, thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. The other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about this evening is next steps. The charge of this subcommittee has like 4 or 5 things on it, and I was going to share screen. Let's see if I can bring up this document here. If I can find it. Sorry about that. It may take me a minute. See if this is it. Let's see, we'll start with that, and then we'll see. Okay, can everybody see that? Oh, no, this is the agenda. Sorry. Wrong one. That's all. You think this is bad? I did this in front of like 400 people the other day. I shared the wrong page. This is our agenda. Let's see. Stop share. Let me get the other one. Sorry about this. I was fast and furiously trying to get these documents up earlier. I apologize. It might take me a second to get this document. I thought I had it open here in front of me. Which was the charge, the once and future charge. But to continue the conversation while I'm trying to find this is, there were 4 or 5 major things that that the charge was given to us by the selectmen to undertake. One of them was, should the Harbor Committee continue to be the same as it presently is constituted? Should we create a is this it here? Should we create a waterways commission? Here we go. Now if I can just share screen right. All right, everyone stop laughing. I can get this right. It doesn't want to give me the right one. I apologize for this, guys.
Do you want me to eat? I found it on my computer. Do you want
Oh,
me
that
to?
would be great, Deb. I'm sorry. I apologize I see it on my screen, but I keep getting, the other one keeps jumping the line and I keep getting up the agenda. So if you have it, I appreciate it. You will be forever in my.
Make sure I got your email right. Is it? You want the Jamalam email?
I'm just trying to do governance.
Oh, how about Cohasset Mass Charter?
Well, you have it. Why don't you just share screen with it?
You know what? I'm a little, if you could tell me quickly how to do that. I had a trouble last time I tried to do it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can do it one last time. I have it, and then I have it in my, and I have it circled, and then I'm clicking on it. It doesn't want to open. I mean, I see it in my little.
Or I could read the 7 bullets if you want.
Yeah, why don't you do that? And I apologize to everybody for this techno-primitive presentation. Deb, why don't you do that?
Yeah.
Because I'd like to, start working on some of these charges beyond just these things that have been kind of given to us from external forces to consider. I think it would make a lot of sense for us to start chipping away at this charge.
I mean, if I have the right one, it was 7 bullets: study merging the Government Island Advisory Committee with the Harbor Committee.
Yep.
Review the charge of the current Harbor Committee and present a detailed recommendation for any possible changes. Consider the establishment of a Municipal Waterways Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Study the pros and cons of establishing a waterways enterprise fund.
Mm-hmm.
And present detailed recommendations on whether this initiative should be pursued. Investigate the efficacy of establishing a Massachusetts nonprofit public charitable entity able to qualify for charitable tax treatment to help raise funds for harbor initiatives. Research and document the current public safety roles of the harbor master, police, and fire of both Cohasset and Scituate and the U.S. Coast Guard. And the final one was research, document, and make recommendations on a possible intermunicipal agreement with the town of Scituate in order to ensure coordination of policies that affect operations of the health and safety of Cohasset Harbor.
Well, it appears that is presently that ship may have sailed at this point. Under the present circumstances. I mean, I think that's something that would make a lot of sense for us to talk about in the future. But right now, within the construct of the present negotiations, I think that's probably something that should be done by the selectmen. If
right,
yeah, that matter. Lori, what would you think of starting to look at the division of responsibilities on, Debbie, can you reread the one about the public safety?
Research and document the current public safety roles of the harbor master, police, and fire of both Cohasset and Scituate and the U.S. Coast Guard.
Yeah. Laurie, what do you think about us trying to put that document together? Because it seems like there's a lot more players in the water right now than they were several years ago.
I'd have to give that some thought.
Okay.
Whether the police are needed here.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they really do?
Right. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just wondering if this is something that would be helpful to start talking about the different jurisdictions. Or would that also fall under the sort of controversial division of jurisdiction that is presently going on between the two towns? David, do you have any thought on that?
Well, if I could just, this kind of goes back to a question I asked way back when about, are we addressing a problem or not? So, what are the public safety issues that come up in a typical summer? I mean, let's say the last 5 years, what have been the big public safety issues? And was there any issue if there was confusion about who should respond to them, and maybe confusion which town should respond, things like that, then it could be worth investigating and making sure everyone's on the same page about who's going to respond to certain kinds of emergencies. But if it's been working fairly smoothly, even if it's kind of
ad hoc,
an informal kind of basis, but if there haven't been big issues, then maybe it's not really worth, messing with something that isn't broken. I don't know.
No.
I think we should take a look at what Debbie said as to what the issues are there now. But I do think we have to take a look at what is possibly going to happen in the future, because if Cohasset, forget what Situate does, if Cohasset does get a shellfish bylaw, and then Cohasset starts to do aquaculture outside the breakwall or out in the ocean, there's going to be at least an expectation that we're going to have more commercial activity going on than we would. I mean, we're kind of, recreation wise, it's kind of stuck to how many moorings we have and Sailing Club, Yacht Club, and the number of boats that they have. But I think there's a reasonable expectation that if some of these other things go through, that there's going to be more commercial activity than there is now, not including some of the upgrades that there's going to be at some of the docks. So I think to maybe get a baseline as to what's going on now and what issues there are, and then kind of a quick look to the future of what there could be there. But I do think there is, even if there's beginning jurisdiction with the harbor master, it's not that they're going to be warring over who's going to be doing what, but there could be times where the harbor master needs to call in extra help and needs a police department. I mean, I don't even know if the police department have a current boat. Do they even have a boat to get? I mean, and you get into the realities. Well, even if they have one, how fast can they get it in a response situation? We know that the harbor master and the assistant harbor master can certainly do that. They're on the water all the time. But what's the reality, and not just on paper, of if there is a safety situation that they do need backup or other people, who's coming first? And as far as the Coast Guard, again, it's the same thing. What's on paper, what's in reality? I mean, the nearest Coast Guard station is what, Hull? Maybe, I think Hull. I don't think Situate has it. So, if they're responding to something, you're probably in a salvage situation for a boat more than a rescue situation. So I think those are things that, off the top of my head, knowing that what we need to look at. But we should certainly be interviewing, Lori, the police, and see what incidents have happened and what sort of what's been happening out there in the last few years, with an eye to the future. Yeah.
I mean, this was one of the charges that was adopted by the selectmen for us to look at. So that's why, in light of all the other things that have been going on, I thought it'd be a kind of an interesting place to start. We also have, we have Josh Kimball, who's recently been appointed as a shellfish advisor person, and I forget the other title that was attached to that position. I think it just might be good to hear from people. Invite the police, invite Lori, invite Josh, and just to, because I think I know a lot, but I probably know nothing, I think it'd be very interesting to hear about what people, and also adding, the teenage group, what is it? The group that is the anti-drinking group that came in to appear before us. Lori, what is the group that has been doing so well with the anti-drug and alcohol?
Safe Harbor.
Thank you, Safe Harbor. And that'd be interesting to talk to them too, because I know they put it through a campaign over the last couple of years, which has been very effective. And I think all of this helps going forward to help all the different departments talk about funding needs, to have exterior people from their actual departments, having looked at them and thought about how, best to support them. So perhaps the way to do that is just to have one of our next meetings, under the aegis of this charge that we've been given by the selectmen, to just have an information gathering hearing, not even a hearing, meeting. Hearing, you think of some, adjudicatory, but just an information gathering meeting. Would that make sense?
Yeah, I think at the baseline, I mean, we got to put together what some of the incidents are, how many there are, things like that. Response calls, emergency, all of that basic information, and put that forward.
I mean, we have a new fire chief, we have a new, we have a relatively new, no, he's been relatively new, the police chief, we have Josh Kimball, we have Lori, it might be a very interesting meeting to have to hear of like a snapshot of like the last 2 years. I mean, they may be distorted because, and Laura, you can speak to this probably better than most. I mean, everybody during COVID bought a boat, and there was a huge increase in I think the traffic, because it was one of the things that they what are Lori's needs? I mean, Lori, you may need a lot more support than you're presently being provided.
No, I'm all set.
I'll bring you some water. Good to hear. Good to hear.
The
So,
last thing I was going to say is that, we also have a couple projects on the harbor that are, one which is being built with the condos, but the other one where Chart House, or what, Atlantic, excuse me, I'm going to show my age here. If I could have said Hugo's, then I would really show my age. But where Atlantic is, and so that hasn't been used for many years as it's been silent there. But once that place gets going, and they've got a pier that can hook up boats. I mean, again, it's not 100 of them that are going to go there, but nevertheless, you're going to have people coming in and out of there too. So I think in the future there's going to be a lot more activity around the harbor between the projects and everything, and the interest. And then when you have the people buying what will be where Kimball's used to be, I think you're gonna see a lot more interest in action in the harbor, whether it's just rowing or otherwise. So it's something to note going to the future, that it's not going to be the way it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago or even 50
Right.
years ago. We're going to be getting all sorts of new activities. So.
and we don't want to duplicate work that other people are doing. I mean, if in fact there is a public safety piece of the master plan that committee that is already working on it, or if there's another subcommittee that's already working on these issues, let's just find out about it. But I just feel like I want, as a group, I think we wanted to get going on some of these other charges beyond just having meetings around potential bylaws that have been brought to our attention.
I would just like to add, first of all, thank you, David and Lisa. I think you're spot on here. In the past, as Lori will attest, she has basically been the quote authority in the harbor. And this includes not only the Cohasset, where the line of between Cohasset and Scituate goes right down from Bailey's Creek all the way down and out the harbor and so forth, but also the Scituate end, that one of the things we're trying to define is the jurisdiction over all of that. But so far, Lori has basically almost by default been the authority over all that area. The problem is that with state laws changing, Lori's or a harbor master's authority has been changing too. So that needs to be taken into consideration. The other thing is that the spit right now, as we know, on a hot summer day, gets crowded with lots of people. Some of them may be underage and they may be drinking. Who is going to monitor that to make sure there's no violation of law or injury and so forth? Bassings Beach is another area, and I know, Debbie, you're very familiar with how Bassings Beach is used from time to time. So all these things, I think it's important to bring everybody together to consider what the issues are. As you point out, Debbie, do we have a problem, or is there no problem? We just kind of say kumbaya, let's go forward and wait till somebody drowns or has a problem. But the future is going to be very different. We know the future is going to be different. We're going to have changes both in the sea level and climate, and we're going to have changes in the harbor. We're going to have ultimately there'll be docks in the Cohasset Wharf, which is where Atlantica is now. We're going to have docks where the Mill River Marina is. If they go forward with their plans to build a boutique hotel there will be docks there for people coming in and out. And all of that, I think, needs to be considered as to how it is appropriately governed. So I would encourage you to do exactly that, Lisa. Bring all the parties together. Josh Kimball is a great resource. He's been at this for many years. He can speak eloquently to what a lot of the issues are in other harbors. So I encourage you to do that. I think that's important to do.
So to that end, I will, work with Cassandra about when we can get a next available Zoom, a slot. They're not easy to get in the town, and the staffing is, stretched super thin. And we'll try to figure out, a date and perhaps a couple of weeks where we can, start working on this. And when we get a date, then I will back into invite, putting up together an agenda of a couple of the public safety people in town to see if they can come just for a discussion. We'll call it a discussion about, the present conditions on the harbor.
Maybe if we get them a couple questions before they come too. So if
Okay.
they got to dig out some info,
Sure.
they can at least bring it to the meeting and not have to go afterwards.
Right. And David, if you want to maybe work on some of those, that would be great. Thoughts of, framing the questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could send something around to us, and if whatever questions people have, the basics, and then we can get them to whoever we're going to invite, and get it to them to kind of answer, at least think about when they come to the meeting, so they're not just there cold, wondering what we're going to be asking. Yeah, why am I here? So, but especially like with incident reports, if they keep statistics on that, that's the stuff we want them to bring and see what's going on and what emergencies have happened and things of that nature.
That's great. Okay, does that make sense for everybody? And is what day of the week is it? My gosh, I'm in a blur. Tuesday nights better than not for people?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll make, accommodations. It's only a handful of us, so it makes it a little easier. I see that Selectman Evans has joined us.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm just between work and home, so wanted to hop on early to see how your conversation went. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining, Corey. We appreciate it. So I think that I don't have much else on the agenda. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything. I think we made a little bit of progress. To recap, we're going to, Corey, we mentioned that the selectmen are going to have a hearing on the navigation bylaw. And many of us are anxiously waiting for that because we think it's going to be really helpful to dispel some of the anxiety and maybe add to the information that's out there by having people come and talk about the bylaw. And then we also talked about our next steps to take based on the charge that was adopted by the selectmen, gosh, a year plus ago, for this working group of the Harbor Subcommittee. And one of those is to look at the the interrelationships between the harbor stakeholders, predominantly public safety stakeholders.
Understood. Yep, great.
And Lisa, I could just add one thing. As you know, there's a climate resiliency group that is working on climate resiliency within the harbor. There's been a grant received by the town to work on that. Climate resiliency is something we should all be concerned about. It involves really the breakwater. Does the breakwater need to be improved to better protect Cohasset as a town? Because it is right in the FEMA velocity zone. So what should be done there? There's a group working on that, and I think your governance group should be included in that. So you see what's going on there, because it's obviously going to involve some governance issue. I'm not quite sure who actually.
Is that Glenn Pratt, Cassandra, who's heading?
No, that's George Baumgarten and you.
I know that, but I'm talking about who put in for the actual the grant.
Oh, I think the town did.
I thought the town did, but I thought somebody else was.
I don't know. I just I saw Lauren this morning, and I know we have it. I don't know who put it in actually, Lisa. I thought you did, but
I wish I could take credit for it, Tim. But
you get credit. You get credit for it.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the CZM grant, that was Lauren and I.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we can thank Lauren and Lisa
Cassandra.
and George.
Yay.
Anyway, the breakwater is one that I it's not clear who actually owns the breakwater, even though it goes from Bassings Beach, which is Cohasset Conservation Trust land, out into the harbor. So and who would apply for the grants to improve that? If it does need improving, it's going to be hundreds of thousands, if not more, to do that. So that obviously it requires grant funding, and who is going to do that. So that's important to do. And then other, resiliency issues, eelgrass. There's a big eelgrass bed off of Bassings Beach going out to the outer harbor area. A lot of it has been decimated recently. I don't know how or why, but there's a group that's going to try to find out why that has been decimated. But eelgrass is a climate resiliency barrier. And so it needs to be restored and improved so that we protect Bassings Beach, which is a barrier beach, and protects all of Cohasset. So all these issues, I think, are interrelated, and they should come together in a coordinated forum. So I encourage you to do that.
Thank you, Tim. So if anybody has anything else before we have a motion to. Sorry, something's clicking on the front of my screen here. Let's see. So do I hear a motion?
So move to adjourn the meeting. So
Second.
moved.
Second, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you all. Keep up the good work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.